All right. As promised, we are officially back on the charts, and this is officially the remastered version of the higher high, higher low slash lower high and lower high video. This is probably arguably a person that's like strictly like, oh, Abe, I don't want to use indicators. I just really want to focus, like not even using fibs or anything of that nature, and just strictly want to use price action. Like a random individual coming to see the charts for the first time and they don't know nothing about nothing. If you understand just the basic principle of the trend and understanding the direction of the trend and how the market actually operates, this is really all you need on the charts to be successful. And I'm gonna cater it to GJ in particular just because this was one of the main pairs that it works. It works well with all of them, but this is the most cleanest pair that you will see on the charts where you're constantly finding it in like crazy different trend opportunities for buys and sales. Side note, before we actually get started, that Nas 100 setup. Remember how in the last training we talked about how I could see the market coming back here to retest that higher low, and then this would be the ideal area for the buys. Now here we are. Now the markets did indeed sell out to this area, and now we're seeing that buy start to make its recovery. And the signal chat I've already talked to you guys about looking for that breakout for the buy. So hopefully, honestly, since this video is getting dropped at midnight, by the time you're watching this, the market should already be taken off for the buys again. Or if not, I am noticing that this could be another entry for like a lower high setup. And this could be our indicator that the market will start going into the downtrends. But ironically, how I said lower high, that's because we're about to get ready to really, like I said, remaster and talk about what that actually means. So I'm going to treat it like I'm teaching this for the first time and nobody has no idea what I'm talking about at all. Right. So what is a higher high and what is a lower high? Grab my arrow. And it's very simple. Once I explain it, we're just going to draw a couple lines right here, right? And let me grab an arrow. So before we even look at the charts, we're just going to look at just a blank white screen. So when you're on the charts, the market goes up, the market goes down, and the market always goes up, right? This is if it's an uptrend. So we established this is clearly an uptrend market. And then same thing, when the market is in a downtrend, the market goes down. We typically find some form of a pullback happening and then a continuation of a downtrend, right? So when you're having these different trends, how do I know when the market is actually still staying in the downtrend or when is the market actually reversing, right? So there's a lot of times on the charts where we can see over here to the left of the chart, this was nice sales, and then all of a sudden it was tired of selling, and then now we're starting to see the market goes in an uptrend. How can I determine when is it the reversals happening? How can I determine that the market is still in a downtrend market? And that is when our higher highs and higher lows come into play. So when we're looking at the charts, actually, you know what? I don't even gotta come over here yet. I'm gonna just slide over here. Let's talk about it a little bit more. A higher high is, let me mark this up first. So let's say the market was right here at this price, 192.691. Boom. This is where the market was at originally. So this is where you're seeing a candlestick. The market originally started at this price. The market ends up breaking this price and it goes all the way to 192,800, right? Now, this is called a higher high. It's called a higher high because the current price is higher than the previous highest point at the time on the charts, and that was at 192.69, right? So this becomes a higher high point. Boom, we're gonna label it as HH. And then as the market finally gives you that pullback, we learned about pullbacks and retests, a retest back to the zone, a retest back to price. Let's say it comes all the way back to the previous high. If the market fails to break below this price, and then all of a sudden you start to notice that it starts to push up again for uptrend move, this has now become a higher low, right? This is a higher high. This is a higher low. Because now, let's see, my fault. Because now it is a higher low because my fault. It should have been right here. This is where I should have had it at my fault. So the market pulls back here roughly to this area. and it doesn't close back below the zone, this is considered a higher low. And this is a higher low because it's higher than the previous lowest point in the market, which was right here at the start of that price. My fault. I should have explained that better. And then as the market continues to break out again, if it goes for a new, if it breaks out higher than 192.802 and it pushes up to 192.865, right? This is now considered a what? A higher high, because now this area is higher than the previous highest high point, which was right here to the left of the charts. And every time the market pulls back, right? Every time you see GJ, I'm carrying to GJ because once I slide over to the charts, it's going to look way more better. But every time you see the market retest back to the zone or retest back to the area, and you're noticing that it's not closing lower than the previous higher low, this is your indication that the market is in a uptrend. All right, boom. So that is a higher low because it's higher than the previous lowest point in the charts, which was right here. This is a higher high because it is higher than the previous highest height at the time on the charts. And that's how I identify the uptrend. So after the uptrend, and as you can see, this price where the arrow took up to, this is, I said, this was like the main resistance that we saw in the 4-hour time frame. So I'm gonna put a red line right here to represent our sales. We're gonna use red to represent our sales, and we're gonna actually use green to represent our buys. Keep that in mind. Go ahead and make a mental note. It's gonna make sense later on in the video. But all right, so we have our uptrend. We understand what our higher high points are and our higher low points are. The market meets a resistance area. Once it gets to this resistance area, right? I don't know why this is tripping right now. Please stop tripping and let me cook. Please and thank you. All right, so once it gets to this resistance area, this is now the newest highest high on the chart, right? But this is where things get interesting. Usually, I teach y'all when it gets to resistance, we expect some form of reversals starting to happen on the charts. So we got our first indication once the market starts to bounce off of this price and starts to reject. But our confirmation that we're going to be looking for is what happens when the market rejects the resistance level. So here you can see, let me see. Now the chart went that's stupid. I can't even zoom in how I was before. So here you can see here in the charts, it's starting to pull back, right? Now it's breaking below the previous highest point in the market. So the previous highest high over here to the chart was right here. So, okay, that's our first sign. We wait for the market to pull back. Once the market pull back, now we start to have a retest. The retest is going to let us know if it's about to continue to be an uptrend, because as of right now, we're seeing the market came back to the same higher low. If I can get it, golly. The market came back to the same previous higher low structure. So cool, this is our indication when I bet it's still a buy. But we're not going to know for sure if it's time for the sales until the market creates a lower high on the charts. And that is going to happen based off of if the market rejects this price. So if the market rejects this price and it starts to continue to go back down, now this is what we call our lower high on the charts. This is when we start to look for our sales. We're just going to label this as LH, right? I'm going to get rid of this resistance line right now because it's a little closer. This is what we're going to label as LH, right? So LH is our lower high because now it is lower. This is the lower price compared, it closed at a lower price compared to the previous highest point on the charts. And then it's literally the same cycle, right? It breaks the structure here. Now it pulls back again. This, once it breaks this structure and starts to go back up for the buys, this area is now considered a lower low. Why is it called a lower low? Because it's lower than the previous higher low. This is literally self-explanatory. Right now, if it's still confusing, don't worry. I'm gonna actually show you. We're gonna slide over to the candlesticks, but this is just like a quick, simple way to show y'all right now. Since it's acting janky right now, I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna already slide over here to the charts. So let's look at it in real time. I'm gonna delete everything. I haven't even been calling trades out over here. Like I said in the last video, I haven't really been calling too many currency trades out. Just been paying attention and just adjusting, seeing what the market is really showing me, just to make sure, like, obviously, I'm giving y'all more quality trades and setups when I'm actually back calling the trades out 24/7. So over here, We can start so we can see where we're gonna start with the downtrend first, so that way you can see when it transitions into the uptrends. So as you can see here to the left of the chart, this was the highest resistance at the time. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not even gonna use lines, we're gonna use the rectangles. So like I said, for the sales, our sales is gonna be our red. We're gonna use red to represent the sales. So as you can see here, this is the highest point in the charts. As the market reject this stretcher, it pulls back to a previous higher low area. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a zone over here for this one. And how do I know this is a higher low? Because as you can see, if you come over to the left, this was the previous uptrend and it bounced off of this stretcher to go for the buys, right? So if it's bounced off the stretcher to go for the buys, this becomes a higher low. And I'm looking at it on a 4-hour time frame because that's going to be the main time frame I want y'all to focus on. You can do this on the lower time frames too, but the higher the time frame, the more accurate the trend is. If you can understand what the time frame, the 4-hour and the day chart trend is, you have a long-term success overall on the charts when it's time to actually look for opportunities for setups and swings and things of that nature, right? So here, this area represents a higher low. This was the area that at one point would have been an area that we would have been looking to buy off of. So I'm going to make this a green area right now. So as you can see here, as it comes back full, these were lower high structures at the time. But as the markets came back, this became, once again, our main highest high point. And if the market isn't breaking this structure right here, this is letting you know that the market is not looking to continue for the buys and that it's getting ready to set you up for the sales. So here we can talk about double top patterns, but I'm dedicating this video strictly to just like the higher high and higher lows and lower high points. So this is our highest high at the time. The market is not getting higher than this area. Once the market starts to reject, this is what we talked about earlier, we have our rejection. And then what happened? We have our pullback. And now it's starting to show us where's our next lower high on the charts. Right here in this stretcher right here. And of course, you don't got to make your zone or your rectangle this big. If you don't want to, you can obviously just make it like right here at the time when it's actually like in real time. Look at the chart, you can literally just have like a mini zone. Like, okay, cool. This is my lower high stretcher. So this is a lower high stretcher right here, but I'm gonna drag it right here just so you can see like what happened. So this showed us it pulled back. It failed to close higher than the previous highest high, right? And it's still right here off this higher low. Cool. This is a lower high now. Boom. It retests the stretcher again. What's happening? It's coming back to the previous higher low. So this is still the higher low area on the charts, but the window is starting to get smaller. That's an indication that you can use too. As it starts to consolidate and get into a zone market, that's when you really want to be disciplined and not trying to catch a breakout entry and just waiting. I mean, not really trying to trade inside the zone, but really just waiting and let the market show you what it's trying to show you, right? So here you can see like you have two prices. That's the higher low. But regardless, it's still not closing higher than the previous higher high stretcher right here. So ultimately, yes, I was in strong buys at one point, but as it starts to slow down and as the momentum starts to not close higher and continue to break out for these higher moves, especially because we're in a 4-hour time frame, these are your indications that you can look for to let you know that the market is starting to reverse and go for the downtrend. And in this case, if you want to use the fibs to help you identify where the next lower highs and higher high points are going to be, you can. But for right now, I'm just strictly teaching you just off of just looking at the counterstick work. So as you can see here, what happens? The market finally decides to break this zone. Once it breaks this zone, we already are looking for sales anyway, but now we are I'm letting you know, like at this point in the charts, we are no longer looking for did I not? I was about to say I'm tripping. Did I not just like we are no longer looking for uptrend moves, but instead we're looking for the downtrend because it's continuing to break below the previous higher low structure. This was the last main higher low structure right here on the charts. And let me go ahead and make sure I mark that up so y'all can see. Higher low. Boom. This was the last main higher low on the charts. It breaks the stretcher, right? Make sure I drag this down so you don't lose sight of that. It breaks the stretcher, and now it comes back to retest the zone. Once it retests the zone, it fails to close back above the zone. So this is an indication, once again, that the market is creating another lower high. So once you realize that, once you determine like, okay, cool, the market is literally giving me lower high setups every single time, you're no longer in the downtrend, go ahead and change your color from green to red or whatever color you choose. I'm just gonna do, I think I'm gonna do, you know what? I'm gonna do red and I'm gonna do blue. I'm gonna do green. I'm gonna do red and I'm gonna do blue. But I don't want y'all to look at red as like a negative color because obviously we can catch sales and make money off the sales. I just, for some reason, as you can see me, actually, I'm gonna make it green because I do it based off of your candlestick patterns. I mean, your candlestick color. That's a good rule of thumb. As you can see, my candlestick colors are currently green and red. So this is a good way for you to identify every time I look on the charts. If my zones are red, I need to be looking for downtrend setups only. Don't be trying to look for buys unless I'm scalping, trying to catch reverse. So as I can see here, this is probably like news probably happened that caused the market to push back inside this zone. But overall, you can see that it pushed up and immediately, even though it broke above the stretcher, it came back outside that zone. So this is still that lower high frame. And obviously, if we threw the fibs on this, this will give us like a deeper understanding of knowing why the market came back inside the zone because it came to the 78. And that's our sweet spot entry that we look for anyway for the downtrend moves when it comes to trading, right? So during this time though, lower high, what is this area right here? This area right here is called a lower low because it's lower than the previous low. The previous low at the time was the higher low right here, right? So it broke that structure and now it's a lower low. This is your indication again, that's letting you know that you're in a downtrend, right? So still just letting you know, keep that in mind. And once again, if you want, I'm going to keep putting my red zones right here so I can know my levels, right? So you got your lower high, you got your lower low. And every single time the market continues to push out below, once it breaks below the previous lower low, great. I'm gonna just keep marking this because now I know this is lower than the previous low. So this is the next lower low. This is lower when we got that break and we got that retest. It didn't come back all the way up here to close back above this previous main lower high, but instead it decided to close lower than the previous lower high. So now this is the new lower high because at the time on the charts, this is the highest point at the time, but it's lower than the previous high, right? So, and then the cycle just continues to continue. Like it continues to go down, as you can see here. It's breaking, it's retesting, it's breaking, it's retesting. And every time you see like these pullbacks, all you gotta do is remind yourself, okay, this is the lower high. Okay, this is lower. I'm still looking for downtrend moves. The market is still, but I'm looking to take my entries off of the lower high. I'm not looking to sell down here because as you can see, why would I do that? And I'm going to get caught in drawdown. And this is going to help you stop yourself from trying to take sales down here. I don't care if the momentum is looking good. Wait until the next pullback. I repeat, wait until the next pullback that happens on the charts. That is when you take your entry for the sales. It's kind of like that analysis where they say like, oh, buy low, sell highs. It's really that same principle, but just with more technical analysis behind it. So as you can see here, right? As you can see here, there's a couple things that you can peep. How do I know when a reversal is over with? How do I know when a downtrend is losing its momentum? A couple things that you can identify. You can see that there's a nice gap between this lower high and this lower high here. You can see there's a nice gap between this lower high and this lower high here. You can see it's a nice gap between this main lower high here and this main lower high right here. But then you start to notice as the market starts to slow down, you see how close this gap is right now? It's losing momentum. The trend is getting tighter. The trend is getting smaller, right? This is the last point where it's like, okay, this was the last push. And then you can see here, that was the lower high. And then the next lower high was right here. So you see how close the momentum is getting versus when it's actually like strong in the trend, strong in the real breakout push. That's your first indication that you can use that the market is potentially getting ready to reverse. And if you're ever feeling like, okay, the market is potentially, it's looking like it's about to get ready to reverse, I want you to draw an orange line, right? And in this case, I guess I could show you this too. So we had our lower high and we had our lower low. At the time, the market has showed us this was the lower low, and then it broke, it retests, and then this became a support level because it hit this price twice. It hit it once, it didn't break. It hit it again, this is the double bottom. It didn't break. And then all of a sudden, we start to see the bull run start to happen. So when you're noticing this, I want you to go ahead and put a orange zone or whatever color you're using. I'm gonna use orange though. Orange is gonna be my color. So let me change this to orange. Boom. This is gonna let me know, okay, is it time for the reversals? That's my first indication. Like, hold on, wait a minute. We had our downtrend, we had a good run with the sales, but I noticed something right here. This is my first indication of when the market does not break lower than the previous low. Potentially could start looking for buys here, right? That's my first thing, my first thought process. So now it's time to see, when do I know when it's time for the uptrend? So you can choose to still trade and catch the reversals if you think if you can understand your pair and you know like, oh dang, the buy's already about to happen right now. I'm about to take my buys early. You can, or you can start to wait till the market show you that the trend is starting to reverse. So here we finally got our buy moves. The market is finally pushing. It's starting to push. It pushes. It closes above the previous lower high structure right here. So this is already our second indication on the charts, right? It's not a higher low yet. Technically, it is. Hold on, I'm gonna have to drop down on the lower time frame so you can see it. So this is our first indication. This is the first awareness. This is the first time it closes higher than the previous lower high. This candlestick closes above the previous lower high zone, and it goes to retest the main lower high zone, which was right here, right? So with that first indication right here is gonna be key. So I'm gonna drop to the 1 hour real quick. Let's go back so you can see a little bit better. So in the 1 hour time frame, it looks a lot more cleaner, right? So you can see, even though I had on a 4, if you want to drop down to the 1 hour and look at it, you can. So, and I think I'm gonna do it for the rest of this training right now, actually. So here you can see lower high was here, boom, and then lower high was here. The market breaks out of this zone. Once it breaks out of this zone right here, we get a retest back to that zone, right? And then what happened? This candlestick right here closes above this zone. So now this trade isn't a lower high anymore. Now this area isn't a lower high. It goes from being a lower high point to now being a higher low point. Because now it closes higher than the previous higher low. And let me mark that up. Boom. I'm like, y'all literally just saw me type this. I know I'm not tripping. So the previous higher low, this now becomes a higher low because it's higher than the previous lowest point, which was right here. And technically, if you're looking at this chart right now, you're like, hey, wouldn't this be a higher low point right here? Yes. And I'm glad that you caught that. I didn't get the chance to say it yet, but yes, this area is a higher low right here because it pushed up on the 1 hour, it pulled back, and it still, instead of going for the sales right here, it decided to keep breaking back to that main lower high. It can get that technical if you want to, but I kind of want y'all to focus like on the bigger ones, the bigger main areas, so that way you're being more safer when it's time for you to look for the buys and the sales. But once it does close above here, this now becomes a higher low. And if you like, I'm not really confident in changing this level to a blue just yet. I'm not sure if I want to make this a buy area. My fault. I'm supposed to make this green, but I'm gonna just keep it blue because I already rocked with it. I'm not sure if I want to make this trade a buy area just yet. What do I do? Boom. Still, just to confirm, right? And I wouldn't be mad at this because the market is technically, for all we knew, the market was in a downtrend, right? For all we know, this can just be retesting the main lower high point right here and just getting ready to like tank for the continuation of the downtrend. And I'm cool with that, obviously, because the overall trend was a downtrend, right? So if you're looking at the charts and you're seeing that, you're like, you know what, this could be a size of the buys, but I don't want to really just say it's a buys already until they really break this structure. Because once they break this structure, then I'm like, okay, cool. I can start looking for buys. And sure enough, what happens? At this point in the time, it retests the previous lower high point, and the market rejects off of this. So from a higher standpoint, which is crazy when you think about it, from a higher standpoint, this is still technically, it just retested the previous lower high point, and the market is still in the downtrend. But on a 1 hour time frame, if I'm looking at it from a 1 hour thought process based off of like the past 2-3 weeks, however the market is looking, if this is a higher low, this becomes a higher high for me, right? And why is that? Because this was the higher low right here, and it pushes up to this resistance. Now I know where's my resistance levels at. Where is the last area that was that the market played as the resistance? Now it's right here, right? Ironically, it's still back at that lower high point. So once again, we're in our period of, and this is like real life, this is probably what, am I tripping? For a second, I'm like, can I spell? I'm like, is this a lower high? I mean, am I actually spelling high right? Like, it looked weird seeing it in all caps. That really just threw me for a loop right there. But as you can see here, like retest lower high, but it's retest the previous lower high structure right here, but it's higher than the previous higher low. So technically, I'm still looking for uptrends here. So every time you see in this price, you see how I said like on the 1 hour, you can see where this area right here bounces off of this area and it starts to push off, right? So I wouldn't have been mad if anybody was like, oh, I'm taking buys right here. But keep in mind, this is where we pay attention to what time is this happening. If it's happening, is it happening during London session? Is it happening during 2 p.m. right after New York or during New York? Is the market dying down? But this buy entry still would have been good. But as you can see, you would have been in drawdown 40 pips before it continued to go for the move that you want to go for. But if you're paying attention to it on a higher time frame, from a 4 hour standpoint, you know this is the main higher low on a 4 hour standpoint. I'm waiting for you to pull back here, and I'm taking my buys off of this wick, right? Or to take it a step further, let's go back a little bit again. If I draw my fibs from where the previous higher low structure is to where the previous higher high is, or AKA where was the last lower high, however you want to go about it, you can see once again, Abe already taught us that we wait for the market to come back to the 61 and 78 before we take our entries. That's our sweet spot. And now you're really have your confirmation, because if it hits here, and this is, look, at the time, it's 1 a.m. when this happened. So this is right at New York. I mean, this is right during London session, the prime time GJ moves, right? So at 2 a.m., the 2 a.m. candlestick bounces off of this area, gives you a bullish engulfing. It's no surprise that the 3 a.m. candle opened up, and now this trade took off for 40 pips. And they continued to take off for another breakout for 138 pips. And that's the power of understanding the price action, understanding where you are on the charts, right? So let's continue to talk about the uptrend. So we did the sales. We identified when it sells. We identified when the market starts to reverse. And then here we are now. We're using the fibs to identify where potential higher lows are or how patient we should be on the charts. But regardless, at this point, the moment the market shows you that, okay, it created a higher low right here and it's starting to go for the buys, now instead of doubting your confirmation and you're like, this is an indication that it's reversing, now I can change my color to blue. Or I should have just had it at green, like I said, to match your candlestick, whatever your candlestick pattern or color is. Now I can change it to green. This is letting me know that the market is, my confirmation that the market is in the uptrend to me. I am now looking for uptrend moves, and I'm waiting for the market to show me that it's going for my buys. All right, so that's all I'm looking for now on this chart. So here, now we can start our process. What happened? After it hit this higher low, what did the market do? It pushed back up, and it went for what? It went for a new higher high. This higher high was right here. Copy, paste. And then it continued to push up to make a new price. It went to go back to that last main lower high. And you can see like the market literally plays in zones and bounces off of price. Price action is key when it comes to trading because price action tells the story. So once again, you saw how in the past, this was the lower high area, and then it turned into a higher high. Here we are again, seeing the same concept. It hit the price, hit the previous lower high, right? Came back to wicket, and this became the new higher high on the charts. So price love, history love repeating itself. Price loves playing in the same areas, whether it's going for the buys or the uptrend, or I mean buys or the sales for the downtrend. So here you're seeing your push. This is the higher low. The market pushes up. It makes a new higher high because it's higher than the previous higher high to the left. It pulls back again, right? And with you knowing how to use your fibs, I'm setting it based off of my previous higher low and my current higher high at the time. I know that I should be looking for buys off of this structure right here. So this is a little bit choppy. I understand that. But if I'm using my fibs, cool. The fibs tell you the story of where you need to set your next buy entry at. So I'm not buying up here. I'm not getting faked out by this momentum that's happening on this 1 hour. I'm letting the market pull back first. I'm setting buy limits off of this. I'm not even gonna lie. This is how I'm about to be operating for the GJ setups. Even you could try this with other currency pairs or NDC pairs that you want. I'm showing you how to do it on the GJ because it's a pair that loves to pull back a lot. So if I understand the pull, if I know a pullback is coming, you could take the sales right here if you want to. You can catch 100 pips on the sales. You can catch another 100 pips on the buys if you want to. And we're not risking no more than 20 to 50 pips per move. I guess I should have said that. That's a disclaimer. But you can see the entries that we're going to be looking to take for these buys and the sales over here. Your stop loss can literally be, like you see here, 50 pips is more than enough. Because by the time you're entering this trade, if you're entering during London, Your trade should already be in blue. You should already be in green. You should already be in profit, and your stop loss should be in profit as well. Let me get rid of this red line. But once again, this area right here, once it bounces off of this is higher than the previous higher low right here. So what do? We already have our green line, our green zone, so I don't got to mark it up. This is our higher low structure. The market comes back again. It fails to break above our higher high. Okay. We know in the past this is a lower high. It fails to break above our higher high right here. So what do? At the time of the charts, we're going to put an orange right here because we don't know if on a higher time frame, I'm going to come back to the 4-hour, we don't know for sure if the market, it bounced off of this, it hit this price twice, it gave us a double top. It failed to close higher. You could potentially be hitting this price and getting ready to set me up for a long-term downtrend yet. But what's going to determine that, right? What's going to determine if this is a downtrend or if I'm good with my buys is what is going to happen when it comes back to hit our previous higher low. If it doesn't break below our higher low, if it continues to slow down and lose momentum and just chill at our higher low, we have nothing to fear and we can look to hold our trades for the buys and continue to look for buy opportunities. But until after we catch this sale, let's say took the sale, until it comes back to here, we don't know if it's a buy, a bullish trend or a downtrend. It got into a sideways market mode. But like I said, it came back to price. It bounced off of that higher low. It failed to like close lower than the previous higher low structure right here in this range that we were looking at. Also this one as well. So what do? We take buys again back to the top of the zone. Once again, we're back at the top of the zone. This is getting towards New York. New York, 8 a.m. I'm pretty sure probably was news that came out that caused this market to push up. As you can see, at the time, this is still the highest high. This is still the higher low. So we're still looking for uptrend. And then, of course, the moment it broke this structure, beautiful. We're comfortable now. Now we're like, okay, cool. We thought it was going to go for the sales, but it never closed lower than the previous higher low. So at the end of the day, this market is still operating in the uptrend market. So all I'm waiting for now, once you pushed up, I need to see when you start selling. You started selling around here? Cool. Now I know where my higher high is on the chart. Boom. And now I'm just waiting for you to give me where my next higher low is going to be. But the great thing about trading is we understand that the market loves to break and retest zones, right? So this was the last previous zone stretcher. So we have an idea that the market is going to find its way back to this zone. And this should be our ideal entry for our higher low. And as you can see here on the charts, boom, that is the higher low right there. And we see the continuation of the trend. And I can do this all day, right? Like I can literally go back and forth and just keep showing y'all this left and right. But I'm gonna leave that for y'all. I'm gonna let y'all, this is gonna be y'all homework for this week. Like actually practice identifying the trend and marking up your charts. And if you want, put that in the community chat and ask people like, hey, what y'all think about this? Or even tag me if you want to check it out for you and see like my thoughts process, how you marked up your zones. But as you can see, like GJ, just looking at this was definitely some strong uptrend movements. And I'm talking about 4-hour setups when I was talking about 200 pips, but like if you can identify that it's in the strong trend early on, you can hold one trade if you want to. Or let's think about the multiple positions that you can place on one big move that you're looking for. Because until they really show you that it's going in downtrend moves, there's no reason for you to look for like long-term sales or enter the sales. You can really just trade one way if you want to. But the sauce to trading and identifying the reversals is going to come down to understanding candlestick patterns. And that's going to be a whole nother video within itself. We're not going to do that in today's training because I just overexert how long this video can be. But when we slide over here to the current time, it's that same scenario, right? So we're currently recovering from a downtrend. So this is the highest. I'm gonna do it faster right now, just to like show you what it would look like in real time if I was marking it up. So this is the highest point in the charts, and you don't got to mark it all the way up here if you don't want to. I just do it just because I'm teaching you right now. Usually, what I'll do, I'll always just go based off of where's the last main areas. So for me, I'm going here. And I'm going here. As you can see here, every one of these areas are lower highs. These are areas where it dropped, pull back, continue for the drop. 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 These are all lower high structures right here in the charts. And obviously I can go even more into it by dragging it here or here or here. But I want to focus on the reversals. So here at the time, these are all downtrend movements. And then I'm gonna make this orange, right? Because at the time we talked about this I don't know what this is. Go away. We talked about this at the time that this was a support level that we were coming off of on a 4 hour and a day chart time, right? When I had my fields up, we were right on that 61 and that 78, right? So as you can see here, this was the last lowest low on the chart. And this was also, once it was the lowest low, and I'm actually drag this down a little bit more so I can see it. Secondly, I could be like super anal and say like, oh, the lowest low is down here. And then it's slowly, and this is really how it be on the charts too. So like this was the lowest low at the time, right? This is my first area that I was looking at where I'm like, you're really starting to slow down. You're losing momentum. You're starting to consolidate. So as the market starts to consolidate, I'm sorry, I'm bringing the trend line into this right now. But as the market starts to consolidate, it's slow down and it's losing your momentum. Remember how I told y'all where you start noticing on the charts, those lower high areas start to get real close to those lower lows. And the momentum that you saw in the past where, okay, the lower high right here, the lower high right here, or like the next big break wasn't until, can you give me the box, please? Thank you. Wasn't until down here. The moment it started getting like super duper tight, right? At the moment it started getting super duper close to each other, you're starting to notice that this is your chance that you need to know that, okay, cool. It's time to start looking for reversals. And once it starts creating higher lows, so we got our lowest point right here, boom. And then what's happening? The market's pushing up, boom. It closes higher than the previous low down here. It starts to push up a little bit more, right? Boom. What are we noticing? It's still closing higher than the previous higher low. This is now a higher low because it's higher than the previous low. Boom. So these are now buy entries that I'm taking. Even before I turn on my 1 hour MAs and I see my 1 hour MAs cross, or I see on the 4 hour, I had a main cross right here. On the 1 hour, on the, without the MAs, you're already noticing the patterns that the market is showing you. Great. It hit this price. This was the last main lower high and it sold off. Why did it sold off? Because it hit the main key area on a 4 hour time frame. So, but it's still an uptrend, right? So it still showed us uptrend movements. This was a higher low structure right here. That's why I'm not adding another one because it's right here. The market pulls back to dump back inside the market. But if I'm drawing my fibs, if I know the last, what I said the last one, that like right here to here, this is dumping back below my 78. It starts to consolidate. Then what happens? It still remains a higher low. So I'm not going to add another zone here. And then it continues to go again to the uptrend. And it's continuing, to make highs, right? So every time I'm looking at this now, I can get rid of these zones, these levels, because the market is continuing to make higher lows. Was the previous higher high right here. This is the current higher high. And it just so happened to be right at the previous lower low. Lower high on the charts. So let me actually mark this up right quick. So this was the lower high at once upon a time. Boom. These were lower highs. Let me see if I can do it quickly without mouse tripping. These are all lower highs right here. Then all of a sudden, got to copy it. It started making higher lows. Started making higher lows and higher highs. So higher lows. Come on, please. Higher lows. This area and this area is basically still the same thing, but I'm gonna paste it again. Get rid of these fits right now. So don't get too cluttered over here. And then these are higher highs. It's higher than the previous high. Come on, thank you. And what I say, price love repeating itself. So that's why we're seeing these same levels, these same price points, these same key areas on the downtrend and vice versa on the uptrend. Boom. So now you're seeing it. So now on the charts, that's why I was telling you, like, cool, I'm really expecting for real bull runs, like back up to this level eventually. But as of right now, until it's still gonna have to break this level. These are still the previous lower high stretches and areas that the market can sell off at. Even right now, I would have assumed last night that potentially was going to sell back out to here, but then it started making higher low right here. So this became an area that I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I don't even got to call sales out. I'm going to just wait for you to break out the zone again, and we're going to look for buys. Even right now, I wouldn't mind calling a buy, but the next trade I'm going to call out for y'all will probably be a breakout here, a retest here, and then I call buys off of here to this level. That would be most likely the next main setup that I'm looking for. And this is officially the 2025 updated version of the higher highs and higher low trainings. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you go back, take notes, watch it over as much as possible, and see how you can implement that into the charts of your choosing. I tried US30, so as you can see here, like it's even cleaner on US30. Like the uptrend was way more obvious and the moves are way more bigger. This was a higher low point right here. This was a higher low point right here. If you notice, every single trade I called out in the chats and stuff was off of higher low entries, right? Unless I'm calling like a breakout. But the market has just been going crazy with the uptrends. And that's why when it's time for the downtrend, it's the same concept. So I'm going to leave it with this. Told you I was going to come back with another banger for this week. I got 2 videos out of me this week. Hopefully y'all take advantage of it. And remember, drop those homeworks in the community chat if you want me to review your chart setups. Peace out.